Yeah, I'm pretty sure anybody in the parking lot has heard that loud and fucking clear. I just got a big old thing of bear mace here. I'm tired of motherfuckers putting their nasty goddamn cockbeaters on me, and I'm sick and tired of these fucking punks in this goddamn town pretending like if they fucking ignore it, it'll goddamn go away. Abuse doesn't fucking work that way. Now then there's the sexism. There's a lady here named Eileen. She works at a church. I like her. She's nice. She's also pathetic and fucking gross and disgusting. And it is exactly people like her that result in innocent people being fucking murdered. Why? Because she doesn't give a shit. Meanwhile, she got 3 daughters. All 3 of them work at this here Safeway. I speak to all 3 of her daughters. I'm pleasant to them. When I'm harmed, however, no, none of them care. They don't care if I'm hurt. They're not going to help me turn it in. Shit, Eileen's the worst about that. What does she do when I'm harmed? She argues over whose job it is. A decent person doesn't need somebody to tell them that someone needs help turning it in. A decent person doesn't need to go through thumbing through a law book to decide whether or not turning it in is the right thing to do. You know what? If your daughter was raped, what's the right thing to do? Huh? What are you going to do if your daughter's raped? How about your sister? All right, now replace the word rape with literally any crime whatsoever. Any crime. Just replace the word rape with any crime whatsoever. Now, what would you do if your sister was raped? Now that's the thing. See? That's what most people say.
He raped my sister.
Yes, sir. Now put any other crime there. Any other crime. And it's somehow socially acceptable, right? No. Now let's change it around a little bit. Let's say that the victim is not your sister. Let's say it's your brother. Now let's understand that first of all, your brother is not likely to come to you for help if he's raped. As a man, it's treated differently. Much differently. And although I was going to go inside of here and try getting something to eat, the fact is it's pretty late and I don't want to be that douchebag to these people. Cool. Fence post. All right. Now, when it comes to abuse against at-risk adults, are the rules any different? What would you do if your cousin with Down syndrome was assaulted by the police? What would you do if your uncle with cerebral palsy was beaten up by the police and arrested for it? What would you do? What would you do if you just found $5 on the ground? I just found $5 on the ground. Hey, thank you. All right, this might be a bad assumption, but I'm assuming the guy that I just said thank you to doesn't speak English. The only reason that I say that is because he didn't say anything back to me. But he's one of the Hispanic folks who sent his daughter across the street with $5 for me. Oh, yes, that hurts. Now, I've been up the mountain for a few days without any cigarettes. I'd sure like to smoke a cigarette. Eileen, when I was harmed at the church, not once, not twice, but 3 separate occasions, Eileen was there for 2 of them. And the third one, she just happened to be right inside of the door. And all 3 times she had to check on whether or not it was her job as a mandated reporter to do something. It's gross. Still got my bear mace here. And yeah, I ain't afraid to use it indoors. I don't care. Yeah. Looks like we got a lot of fun people on here tonight, don't we? On the bright side, it's pretty easy to get rid of these son of the bitches. Hide user of this channel, and goddamn, he's gone already. How easy was that? If only I could do that with predators in real life. I could if I had a friend or family member who gave a shit. But obviously, that's the one thing that's been lacking this entire time. When you want to point out somebody that I know who gives a shit, point out how it is that they show they give a shit. Guaranteed it's not because they tried to help me turn in the abuse, because none of them actually ever did. It's strangers I have to ask for that help. Strangers. People that I don't fucking know from goddamn Adam. I left a huge goddamn mess up there in the mountains. Not that it fucking matters, I can't fucking take care of myself. I'll get abused for fucking leaving it there, but what choice do I fucking have? I don't have any help. Fucking lit myself on goddamn fire, that was fun. Ew. Nasty. Let me show you that. Here's a piece of my hand right there. You see that little white thing? That is a piece of my hand. Oh, and I dropped it. See that? Let me show you where that came from. Came from right there on my pinky. As you can see, there's burns all over my hand. It was fun. Let's get back to Eileen. Eileen was there when Robbie Farnsworth was trying to start fights with me. She was also there when he was trying to start fights with others. She didn't do anything about it then, and she didn't do anything about it when he did it to me. The fact, plain and simple, is that she doesn't care. If nobody cares about you, nothing is against the law. And you've shown that loud and proud. I've shown you the difference between a man going for help and a woman going for help. The difference between a homeless person going for help and a person in the house going for help. I've shown you racism from black people, from Hispanic people, from Native people. I've shown you racism from, well, just about every walk of life. While you blame white people. I've shown you that every single woman in America is taught to be sexist. Fuck gender roles and anyone who expects us to comply. Women want to ask for equality, but they don't want equality. There isn't a woman that I know who actually wants equality. There isn't a woman that I know that wants to be fucking raped and told that she must have chosen it. But that's what it's like being a man. No matter what people do to you, you chose it. You chose for people to victimize you. You chose for people to steal from you. You chose to have no money. You chose to be homeless. No, what I chose is not to kill any of you pieces of shit, no matter how much you deserve it. Does Eileen deserve to be shot for what she did? No. How about Farnsworth? No. How about me? Do I deserve to be shot for what Eileen did? Or what Farnsworth did? Do I deserve to be assaulted for what they did? Do I deserve that? Doesn't matter what the fuck I deserve. What matters? I'm not a person to you, and I never will be. What matters is that I'm not a person to Eileen, and I never will be. When you say you'll talk to my predators for me, that's not what I need. I need it documented that these things are happening somewhere other than just on my fucking Facebook. Because none of you, not a goddamn one who gives a holy fuck. As far as good people go, I know one good person. Me. Out of all those people who just watched Jamie get fucking punched, how many of them spoke up? Not a goddamn one. It came down to me saying something. Fuck this goddamn country and everyone in it. You know why we live in such a fucked up world? Because of Christians like Eileen. There are no real Christians. Every single Christian that I've ever met has taught me that. Oh, cute. On the bright side, I can get rid of these fake ass accounts. You're all shitty pieces of... Well... Insert whatever the fuck you want into that goddamn category. You're all shit. Obviously, I don't do this for likes. Obviously, this has nothing to do with fucking popularity for me. It's all the rest of you that give a fuck about that goddamn bullshit. Oh, what will people think of you if you admit that you fucked up? Oh, well, that's the difference between you and I. A good person to fess up to it right away. Now, the abuse that I've gone through in this town, I still haven't killed anybody. I still haven't beaten anybody down. I've been hiding.
You in a while, huh? You're not hanging out down by the laundry no more.
I can't. Too much violence down there.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that.
Them youngins are horrible. They drive by no matter where I park now, screaming the N-word at 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I just spent 4 days up in the mountains because they're driving me nuts, and the cops are even worse. They arrested me for calling 911.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I did call the 911 dispatcher a few choice words, but given the situation, I feel that those words were more than called for. If she'd have been a man, I'd have used the same language.
I do believe the youth in this town is a little overrunning. I mean, they use their mouth more than their brain. Well, get them hurt someday.
Lucky for them, I'm not a violent person, but damn, you know, they're pushing it.
Yep.
There was more than one occasion down there where they were pulling stuff that would have gotten them shot if it had been anybody other than me.
I thought they moved that trailer in for you. The one there by the sign. It's hooked up to the sign and everything with electricity.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be. The people that are there, they complain to the cops about it, but they don't do anything. So
I thought it was
basically,
one of the store owners. It has to be.
it's got to be at this point because it has been there for about a month now.
Yeah, ever since you left.
Yeah.
It was like right after you didn't show up there anymore, that showed up.
Well,
I thought for sure they weren't there for you.
I showed back up for a little bit. There was a situation with Chris Stafford and some other girl that's got nothing to do with me, but it's illegal firearms, and he's a felon. He was a felon for being violent. So with him trying to purchase an illegal firearm and this lady telling me that he stole her gun, and he's telling me that she held a gun to his head and made him drive around all over the place. And then he goes around telling people that she's got chlamydia. I'm like, you know what? Until you said she had chlamydia, I believed you. But I don't believe that Amanda's any of the stuff that you're saying about her. I believe she told you no and you couldn't handle it.
He's been in jail more than he's been out of jail recently. It's a shame. He's going to lose his job. What'd you say his last name was?
Stafford?
It's not the same one that's in jail right now.
No, he's the guy that runs the laundromat, the guy
Right,
with the
yeah.
beard. Yeah.
I knew him many years back and when he was handling around Yamhill County. And then I ran into him over here and thought, wow, you're really doing good for yourself. I mean, but recently he hasn't been.
You remember that black guy that was coming around, Christian? I've heard two different rumors about him. One of them, I heard a rumor that he was taken to Salem to a mental institution. The other one I heard is that they were taking him to Salem and he died on the way.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen him since, and the cops aren't going to share any information with me.
He knew him. I didn't understand one bit of it because I didn't know that happened. But you know where they have the games there for the kids in that mall right there? The guy that was running that was saying something about he died. It's a shame, huh? And I didn't understand what he was talking about because I didn't know.
You know what started the trouble between me and them youngins? I'd listen to their racism and them driving around my vehicle and screaming the white power crap for months. But I ignored it. You know, I recorded on my YouTube channel and spoke up about the fact that it was happening. But it wasn't until Christian was threatening to kill him one night that, you know, they started really coming up on me and trying to intimidate me and threaten me and all that. And it's been nonstop ever since. I mean,
because they got threatened.
well, I didn't threaten him. Christian did. And I tried the very next day. I went up and I talked to him. I was like, hey, I don't need you guys coming up on my vehicle. I'm not the one that threatened you. I told him not to. You know, that's the thing is that at that point, they started calling me over. And if I didn't come over, they'd start yelling for me to come over. And if that didn't work, they'd come park next to my vehicle and say, hey, I don't want to hear that N-word. So they'd start this game about using the N-word. And now it's the point where they're chucking pumpkins at my vehicle, throwing rocks at my vehicle, yelling stuff out the window even more often than they were. I mean, every single night I have to deal with it.
And it's the same little crowd, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
That's a shame.
And I can identify them. Shit, the cops know all of them by name.
Yeah.
But they
I'm
play
sure they do.
stupid.
That makes sense why Chris is back, you know. And I told him you're going to end up in prison, dude. You're going to shoot one of them kids, you'll end up in prison.
Yeah, it's one of the things I'm worried about is because, like, first of all, when he was trying to buy the gun from Dallas, he did that right in front of me, knowing that I'm aware that he's a felon, you know. And then when Amanda was telling me, hey, he, you know, was running around claiming this and claiming that, Amanda's mom is the one that told me, hey, you know, Chris stole my gun. And Amanda said, yeah, he stole the bullets out of my guns. So, like, for me,
Well, he told me he took that gun from her because she had him drive around with it, you know, forcing him to.
so he did take the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told him, man, you know what? You get caught with a firearm like that, you not only will lose your job, you will go to prison and and it won't be any good. The rest of your life is going to be rough.
Hopefully he's only got one felon on his record then. Because possession of an illegal firearm, that's 3 felonies right there.
Yep.
They'll get him for habitual and they won't let him out.
Well, you see, and now he's got a restraining order against his wife. He's got a restraining order on him, and he's staying at his house, right? I mean, so every time they get in an argument, she told stop, he goes to jail. And I said, you're telling the judge to fuck himself. You know, when you break a restraining order, what you're doing, you're telling the judge to fuck himself. And judges don't like to be told that. They hate it. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
they do. They like to sit on their podium and play God.
Right, they do, but you better treat them like God because they are God when you're standing in front of them. I mean, I hate to say it, but they are. You know, I mean, you don't play their game, you'll go to prison. I mean,
I called him judge instead of your honor. I had one judge once tell me, it's your honor. And I said, I'll call you your honor when you do something honorable. For the rest of the time that I had to speak to that son of a bitch, he did not request that I call him your honor at all.
Yeah, well, I got in trouble a long time ago for jumping a judge in the courtroom, and he didn't have no clothes on underneath of his robe, and I had a fit. I was in chains, and I had him chained to me, and it was not good, you know. But down here, you know, the first time.
I got lit on fire.
By yourself, or?
Yeah.
You did it? Oh, no.
Well, would you say I did it myself? The reality is, I ran into some people I know and they didn't like me and they thought they'd throw a cup of gas on me and then flick a cigarette at me, and flicking a cigarette at me didn't light it up. Like, any idiot could have told him that. That only works in Hollywood.
There goes Peggy. She waved at you.
Anyway, I had the gas on me and I went over. There's a fireplace over, or not a fireplace, but a little fire pit over at my camp. And, you know, this is my first night up there. The last 2 nights I was expecting them to come back again. But they threw a whole cup of gasoline on me and flicked a cigarette at me, bounced off me, didn't light up. You know, takes about 10 minutes for me to calm down. I go over by the fire. I'm getting ready to start up the fire. I haven't even lit it. I got my whole left side here, and I even burnt my belly. No belly hair left because it soaked in. So when I was over by the fire, I started putting stuff on top of it, and it flared up, and I went, whoa, got on the side of my face, lit up my arm, lit up my shirt. I did the stop, drop, and roll thing, but it's gas. It don't want to stop. So, yeah, technically I lit myself on fire, but realistically somebody else tried to light me on fire like 10 o'clock at night. Just enough for it to be dark. I'm like, all right, I know that pickup from somewhere. It's a Chevy Silverado. It's a silver Chevy Silverado. Might have been a Chevy Colorado. I don't know. It's one of that style.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, well, they fucking don't like me.
They're troublemakers anyway. The police know they are and don't do anything about it. They've routed that homeless camp right there by Rosenberg, you know, where
they lit the camp over there on fire twice. It was high school kids that did it. The one that was lit on fire over by the railroad tracks, that wasn't high school kids. That was somebody getting their stuff lit on fire because he was stealing from people. But the thing is, out of the 8 fires that I'm aware of since I got here, 3 of them were started by homeless people. The rest of them were started by high school kids.
Yeah, and that can get dangerous. I mean, seriously.
Well, one of these days, one of these little tweakers who got their tent lit on fire is going to take revenge. They're going to be so fucked up out of their gourd that they don't see any wrong in it.
Yeah, they're at their wits' end.
You know?
I tell people all the time to be very careful because you don't know how far that guy's gone. I mean,
I'm pretty far gone, and I don't even do drugs. Like I just take so much abuse.
I'm laughing because of the way you said it.
It's the reality of it.
Gone and you don't even do drugs and you're gone. And those kids that they drink, I don't know if they're doing drugs.
Well, them youngins don't mess around with the drugs so far as I'm aware. They do drink, but they're not messing around with the drugs as far as I'm aware. But the other thing is, all the places that I'm sent to that are supposed to help out disabled and at-risk adults, They're sending me to peer support. Well, their idea of peer support is to send me to the local junkies. And then the cops tell me, oh, you should stop hanging out with those people. Like, I didn't want to go to those people for help. This is the people you sent me to for help. Or the people that you sent me to for help sent me to those people for help. So what's the point of jumping through all the hoops as a disabled person so that mandated reporters have to do their jobs if they're just going to ignore it and use the mentally ill tag as an excuse not to? Like you were saying, they know those kids are doing that stuff.
Yeah, the cops do. I know somebody else that they started picking on because he tried to steal from them, and it's like they don't forget. I mean, I think if you went and told their moms would do something. Their dad won't, but their moms would.
Well, I don't know their moms. That's one of the big issues. There is one Hispanic feller. His name is Carlos, and he's about the only friendly one out of that group, but he's also the only Hispanic one out of that group.
Right.
Now there's
they know they've been picked on before.
Yeah. Well, more than once when they were trying to pick on the Hispanic kids down there, them Hispanic kids walked through as a group. You know, basically they were going through to make sure that the Hispanic girls weren't harmed.
Right.
And when they walked through the parking lot, all them youngins was trying to get me to start a fight with them, like because they're Hispanic, they deserve to be, you know, hurt, or that they're walking those girls over to the Burger King so that they can rape them at the Burger King. No, dude, they're walking their little sisters to get something to eat.
Right.
Anybody can tell that.
And be very careful because they protect their own.
They absolutely do, and as well they should.
Right.
Is there any way I can con you out of a tobacco? I could pay you for it.
You don't got any cigarettes left, do you?
That's
You
all
know,
right.
It's the ones you just lit.
Well,
We roll our own.
I have some in the car I can roll. I'm gonna let you have that one because I do have. I just went to the Safeway and picked up tobacco so I could do that. I was just being lazy.
We bought box of tubes so we could roll some more. But yeah, I don't buy them. I can't afford it.
Yeah, with me, when you were noticing I wasn't down there, I've been staying at the library or over at Lillian A. Goodspeed or over at Safeway until they close because I can't park down there and not get messed with. I was parking over by St. Albans Church and they were screaming at me at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I would say that's not a good place to park because there is some crowd around there.
I know the crowd there. That I don't even want to get into that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see you around. I asked Chris, and Chris said that the cops had got you, and I said, really?
Yeah, they arrested me for calling 911 over them youngins. What did them youngins do afterwards? Well, there was no consequences, so they just stepped up their
It
game.
makes it worse.
Yeah.
I they give them balls because you're not going to do anything. You reprimand them like you're going to reprimand them, and then you let them loose, and that makes them tougher. And they think they can get away with more. And my problem is I'm too old to fight more than one round, and I don't want to hurt any of them.
Yeah, and when you're old and your body stops working, you basically got cheap shots that you're left with.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to kill anybody because I punched him in the throat, but I mean, really, anything else that I'm going to hit him with is going to be a powder puff.
Yeah. And the last guy I fought, I felt bad 3 weeks later when I saw him. I mean, I didn't mean to do that to him, but it's that fight or flight, and you're going to save your life. I mean,
Yeah.
too many times.
But you're not allowed to. Now there's laws that make it so that you're not allowed to defend yourself. You have to take punishment. You have to take the abuse, even if it means they beat you to death.
Yeah, well, he sprayed me with bear mace.
I have bear mace in my car for the next time them youngins fuck with me.
Well, I'll tell you what, be very careful spraying it with bear because it didn't stop me, but it would stop most people. I
Yeah.
would say it would stop most people. It didn't stop me.
When I told him not to spray me in the face with that stuff in the prison, I was like, first of all, I'm the only person I know who's ever been to prison and released without a conviction. I was only charged with misdemeanors. State of Nebraska, they have a program where if you're from a small county, they can send you to the prison to be held for court. So they sprayed me in the face with their special mace in there. Oh, I thought I could handle it, and I really could. I kept running my mouth. When they had me take a shower, and that stuff got down to my balls, I was like, oh my God, shoot me.
Yeah.
Oh, that stuff is bad.
Yeah, well, this is that stuff that shoots 40 feet, and he was only 2 feet away from me. Made this eye bleed, you know. And I don't remember how I got on top of him and started hitting him. I do not remember all that.
At that point, all you remember is pain.
My body was protecting myself. You know, I mean, and I have fought many a times in the past, but I don't do that anymore because I can't breathe that well. And I try to stay out of it because I don't want to hurt nobody. You know, and they're going to make me hurt them because, you know, they're going to do something stupid like hit me in the back with a tire iron or something, and that's going to make me want to stay alive, right? I mean,
I got a few friends who survived that, and that's not something that I want to survive.
Right. I've had to, I mean, and it was a sting operation by the cops, which I didn't understand. And you knew these kids were doing this, and they ended up killing people in Lincoln City, these kids.
Oh, they're killing people here now, too.
Oh, I know.
I don't know if it's these kids or not, but we got a lot of bodies popping up.
Boy, did they. There's it's too many. I mean, and for nothing being said, right? That's what my thing is too many not being, and they said that one couple drowned in the bay. When you drown, you go down. You don't float. It's when you die before you drown, you float. Because your lungs get filled with water. So you gotta float. I had that all backwards. I mean, come on, I'm not that stupid.
Well, I've seen them dig people out of the fish down in California. One of the guys, I just met him 2 days later. I got to see them pulling him out. They had divers in there and everything, and the divers obviously didn't know what they were doing. They pulled him out and scraped off half of his face, but he'd been face down in the water for 2 days.
Yeah, they blow real bad at first. I know, I've seen it too, but I was just wondering. So you're still around, huh?
I am. I spent 4 days up in the mountains, though. When I got up there, and then there was that whole situation with them finding my spot and throwing shit at me. I mean, well, all right, there's a little common area at the campground kind of thing, and then there's a few little areas where you pull off from it. And I was in the common area picking up some of the stuff there that I could use as firewood when they pulled up. And they started calling me the F word for homosexual and get the F out of here, get out of Tillamook County. I'm like, I'm in Tillamook National Forest. You know, I drove over 20 miles to get away from these little shits.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But they was screaming at me. I had to, of course, it was just starting to get dark, so I figured I had time to pick up the firewood. Well, turned out I had to go back to my camp with that firewood in the dark because by the time they pulled up, it's obviously not dark like this, but it was getting dark enough that I couldn't hardly see them.
Well, hunting season starts tomorrow morning, so there's going to be a lot of idiots in the woods with guns.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame.
And I had to give them a valid excuse. Hey, it was hunting season. I saw a doe. I didn't realize that there was somebody on the other side of it.
Yeah, it'd be like the police officer a couple of years ago that shot that lady twice. She was still moving. That's why he shot her twice, because she was still moving. He didn't realize it was a human the first time, and the second time you still didn't know it was a human. I mean, odds are that you're not a good hunter then, no.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They get away with it though.
I'm from Nebraska. It's different than hunting in Virginia or here in Oregon. You're not going to see anything out here if you're hunting, unless it's open pasture the farmers have done something with.
Or it's crossing the road, or
Yep, you're the closest that you're going to get to it and be able to drop it. You're not able to see it past 60 yards.
right, unless you're sitting at some clear cut and it just happens to pop out.
Yep. Whereas in Nebraska, you might be taking a 3/4 of a mile shot to drop an antelope.
Yeah, I never thought about that before, but I mean, the flatlands out there like that is different.
You can see people coming from a long ways off.
Yeah, we got Eastern Oregon then. Eastern Oregon, you have to have a gun that shoots miles. I mean, because that you're not going to see them closer than that. I mean,
No, Western Oregon, you need a pistol. Pistols are specifically made for killing people. But
right, yeah, and crawling
it's
on
at
your
the
hands
point
and
where
knees.
you need it.
I mean, you have to crawl on your hands and knees in the brush. I mean, unless you're a rabbit. I know that I don't get around like I used to, so we sit and watch clear cuts a lot when we go hunting. But or I'll have her sit at the top of the road and I'll walk down to her. You know what I mean? But very seldom do I go very deep like I used to.
I use my sniffer and I look for trails. And if there's no trail, I don't stop. If there is a trail, I'll stop for 2 or 3 days to get my deer.
Right. Well,
But I got to
it's a
be
fact,
hungry.
if you sit in one spot, they will pass by again every so many days. I mean, it's obvious they do.
Up by my camp, I know that there's an elk rut. I know that the elk goes by there at least 2 to 3 times a week. I also know that he doesn't stop by when I'm there because I make a lot of noises. I also make those noises for a reason. I don't want to tangle with an elk.
Yeah, and besides, if there's elk in the area, bear with them. Bear follow the elk for a reason, because the elk tear up the ground. The bear can get the stuff out of the ground easier.
Bears also like eating their shit.
Right. Well, because elk don't digest a lot of it. I mean, they leave like 70% of it is good. I mean, and those little nuggets are good for them. You know? When I found that out, I started watching a lot closer because I ran into a bear one time in elk and it scared me away from the elk. It said leave. Okay, I go.
I'm more afraid of the elk than I am of the bear. Most of the time when I've met people that have been mauled by an animal, it's an elk or a deer, not a bear.
Yeah, a deer will hurt you bad. And they, at rut time, you better be careful because they're crazy.
Well, mule deers are always crazy.
Right. I wouldn't hunt over there because they got the consumption disease. It's tuberculosis. And they're watching it over here to see, make sure it don't get over here. But I think the government gave it to them. See, because if they kill off all the animals that we can't hunt no more, then we can't live and survive without the government.
Well, look at the cost of ammunition. You get just a box, a 12 gauge, $24. You can't afford to get a grouse on that.
I got a whole bunch of the police on ammunition when they threw it away because they said it was dead.
The police ammunition?
Yes. Yeah, it was only good for a year and they threw it away, they said. I've had it for 10 years, right, or better, and I haven't had a dud yet. But they threw it
I
away.
was firing bullets from Vietnam just last year.
I mean, yeah, well, they said that they put it in to kill it, right? I mean, something in the gunpowder to kill it. I don't believe they did that. And they would let the police use it because then if they got into a battle, they could get killed.
Yeah.
I mean, but I went to the same calibers that they used because I've been down that road.
You have that abundance,
Yeah, I want an abundance of shells. I mean, I don't want to be able to get them easy. I had to get rid of the one that I loved a lot, and it was my 270 because I couldn't find shells for it. And like you said, right now, shells are outrageous. 22 used to be able to buy a 5-pound brick of them for $12.99, and they're $45 right now for a 5-pound brick.
I spent $11 for 50 rounds, but you know, I got specialized rounds for a friend's specialized gun because, you know, if you got the right match for the right firearm, then you're going to be accurate. If you don't, it's going to be all over the place.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't just buy store-bought ammunition and think it's going to work.
If you got a Gila Triple S rounds, which they don't make anymore, you need to have a 9.5-inch twist. If you don't have a 9.5-inch twist, it might not go where you want it,
right,
and probably won't.
Very few people know that the twist on it matters a lot. At the length of the barrel. I got an old Mauser, and it cost $32 a box for its shells, but
they're steel core. They're steel core though.
Right, and they're 7x57. I mean, they're 7 millimeter, but 57. On the 57 is the size of the lead that comes out at the end of it. But it's a pretty good Mauser though, tight.
Mauser's a good rifle. See, when I had my British 303, I had number 2 Mark IV, and that thing kicked like a mule. I hated it, but
dead nuts.
I fired that one and number 4 Mark I, and the number 4 Mark I fires easily, smooth. It's nice. It's about like firing a 30-aught or a Mauser, but the number 2 Mark IV, that thing kicks like a mule. But the ammunition for it, that's when ammunition was cheap. I was still paying $2 a round for it.
Right. I had a Desert Eagle that I got rid of because I couldn't afford the $4 for a round. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God, you got the 50 AE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual one that was made not in America, over.
Israeli Military Industries.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, and I found out what it cost for a shell and went, oh, I can't afford this.
Well, those guns were designed by Magnum Research, and I want to say they're out of Philadelphia. Um,
I think that's where I had to send to get the pin for it because it changed barrels. That's all I had to do is I could change it to a 45 barrel, 45
Yep.
Magnum, excuse
you
me.
can get 45, 44, and 50 for the big one.
Right, yeah. And all you had to do was pop the pin in the end and put the barrel on and a different mag in it. Yeah, that was a mean little gun. But the cops saw it and they told me that it was a cop killer, so I wrote that down on it. That's one of the uses for it. No. You wouldn't want to use it for home protection.
See, I don't get why somebody would want to shoot a cop with a 50 cal.
I don't want to shoot that. I hope nobody ever puts me in that position again.
Well, I've had a few people try to put me in that position. I'll take the bullet. I don't like being here enough to fight that. I'll just let them do it.
Well, Uncle Sam put me in that position, and I was just a young kid at the time, so.
That's one of the things I talk about. I talk about how I have no respect for any active soldier, but I got a lot of respect for veterans. It also depends on the veteran.
Yeah, I know it destroyed a lot of my nieces. The military did, and a few of my nephews. They thought they were going to go over and make a canoe out of somebody's head and come back with a whole different problem. And they're not this normal. They're nothing like what they were when they went over.
Yeah, they come back going, oh my God, I can't believe I wanted to do that.
Yeah, they come back real humble.
You go over there for Uncle Sam and you come home on your own.
Right, if you come home.
If you come home, yeah.
Well, I've said that a million times over that there was a reason. I mean, there's a reason why you come home and why you didn't come home. There's a lot of them that didn't. I mean, they went there with the wrong thoughts in their head and it didn't work out for them. I mean, I never understood it when they said that people went to Iran and Iraq. How do you get used to it?
You don't.
Explain this to me. How do you get used to it? You don't.
The 101st, through all of World War II, they fought the whole thing, like literally through the entire thing. Also, same with the Big Red One. Now, they said that out of all of the men who started off, that there was less than 20 of them in both of those units that ended the war. Less than 20. And there's a lot of people, when you end up with only 20 left at the end of that. And then there's the situation in Kasserine, and then there's what was the Monte Cassino? I mean, we're talking about over 80% casualty rates in just one or two battles.
Right. And how about that platoon that met the other platoon and had Christmas dinner together? And
World War I.
Oh, yeah.
They played soccer too.
Yeah. And decided that, that wasn't for them. What was going on wasn't for them. I mean, which took a lot between the two of them, the two groups. To put the hate away and go on, because Uncle Sam gave you the hate. They put that hate in your heart.
Well, they're training you over there for that reason. You're getting trained to kill people.
Right. Well, it's like they got with the border going on right now. I don't hate the immigrants that are coming here by no means. I don't like the idea that they're not legal. I mean, they should become legal, but
you're not interested in shooting them for it.
No, I don't want to see them get hurt in any way, shape, or form. But I think that if I went down there and crossed the border and then came back over on this side, they would close the border then, and I would lose. Because they're getting more than we are, and we fought for this country.
Well, one of the things I've been noticing, not just here in Tillamook, but all across the country, it's brown people taking care of me. It's Hispanic people, it's Muslims, it's Native Americans.
Their family than I'm telling you right now. Yeah, they take care of themselves and others. Around them.
Yep, and it's easy to do when you work together as a family. Those of us who grew up poor white people, we're told, hey, you're 18, you're on your own. Get the fuck out of my house.
Right. And you don't have brothers and sisters. And seriously, when I went to prison, I let people I didn't know keep my stuff because I didn't trust my brothers and sisters. Isn't that a shame?
Yeah, my little sister, she ripped me off for about 2 grand when we were trying to turn in some real bad folks in Chapel, Nebraska. But instead, she got a hold of me and let me know that the police followed her and that people were threatening to kill her and my niece. I literally had to flee the state of Nebraska to protect my sister. And that's stupid because she's in Nebraska still.
Yeah, I know that story. My daughter, she's been reading for
I better get in there and see if my
Yeah.
card still works. If you're still out here in a minute, I'll come out and talk trash with you.
You parked around the other side, or
Yeah, I'm parked right there.
I'll pull over there for a minute. I would wait for my door.
Yes, sir.
You don't mind, do you? I mean,
I don't mind at all. I don't have any friends.
yes, you do. He's still upstairs.
That guy?
He's always there.
I get a receipt.
These are 6 cents, and then what's with these? Are these like on sale?
I never get charged twice. The same thing in there when that goes in there. I think it's up to her.
No, I got food stamps, thank goodness. I wasn't sure if I was going to get them back in. That's one of the things about having disabilities, but I'm able to speak English. So people pretend because I can enunciate well that it means that I can't be disabled. It don't work that way.
Well, I got my disabled permit because my doctor didn't understand the paperwork on it, so he signed it anyway.
I saw Dr. Boggs from TCCHC driving she's got a really, really nice, like bright orange Mustang, right? With a little handicap sticker, parked herself in a little handicap spot. And I thought to myself, you know, that makes sense. There's all sorts of different disabilities, but she doesn't have a mobility issue. Why the hell is a doctor parking in a handicap space when she doesn't have a mobility issue?
Well, number one, I mean, it's like you got to be at 88 to get an oxygen machine. I'm at 87. One off.
Mine's always 98 or 99. Once in a great while, it's 97.
Well, I take my oxygen a lot, but I mean, I'm quitting smoking because of it. I have slowed down so much. But then the first time I quit smoking, I gained 40 pounds. And I don't know which is worse, the weight or the smoking. Neither one's good for you.
I'll take the cigarettes over the fat.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's why I started smoking. But when you can't breathe, yeah, then you gotta really wonder. And this hot weather we've had lately, humid, and I have a hard time breathing.
Yeah, I can't breathe anyway. I wake up in the middle of the night. I keep forgetting, in my sleep anyway, I forget that I can't breathe through my nose. So I wake up choking.
Tonight,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for her, I would probably die so many times.
Sleep apnea?
Yeah, she wakes me up saying breathe.
Yeah.
And she goes, I can tell it's a tune you do. You know, you're breathing a little bit hard and then you go really soft and then pretty soon you're not breathing at all.
Yep. And my body doesn't wake me up when that happens necessarily.
I was just watching their camera. I know that's what it is. But it's only watching the area. It wasn't stored. Because if you're inside, you can see it. You don't really have to touch.
Well, I believe that as long as people have political opinions, that's fine. They got opinions about people moving in, that's fine. Once they start trying to get violent with people, that's not fine.
I had a sleep apnea place get violent with me because I was wearing a Trump t-shirt. He didn't like it. The guy didn't like it at all. He tried to choke me to death with a mask.
Shit, I don't like Trump, but you know what? I didn't threaten to kill him because I wanted him dead. I threatened to kill him because I needed somebody to listen to me about the abuse I was enduring. And the only way I could think of to do it with everybody blowing me off was to threaten the president.
Well, I'll tell you what, he helped the veterans more than anybody ever helped the veterans. I mean, seriously, Congress has always been against the veterans. I mean, he's the one that opened it up. If you go to any doctor, And he was the one that said that if you're disabled, don't let the Social Security or the system think that it's coming out of their pocket because you paid for that. You know, especially if you're a veteran, you paid dearly for it. I remember when I went, Nixon said when I turned 55 that I got to retire and I would have health benefits, and now I got none of that shit when I got worse. Of course, though, he was a liar, so I mean, you know, and there hasn't been a president, one, that's ever done this to what Trump did. He stopped the wars in America. He stopped America from being in wars. He backed us away from it. He didn't bomb someplace every day.
You know, I am racist. I voted for Barack Obama because he was black.
And he
Whereas
bombed a place every day. Every day
I
he
would
bombed
have I would have voted for Colin Powell on his personal politics.
and he was another war guy. Him and that Cheney. I mean, they make millions off of the war. I'm 66 years old, and I just realized how they make money off of war.
Empty promises.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's
Kind
not
of
off
like
the
here,
guns. It's not
when
off
I'm
the,
abused, the cops don't do anything about it. They send me to mental health. Mental health says it's not their job, but they want to get the money for me going to therapy, and I don't pay.
well, and they got a lot of therapists for you to see.
A lot of them, but then they say we don't have any resources in this town. We don't have any money. I'm like, there are literally over 60 mandated reporters I've had to speak with since I got to this town. Don't tell me you don't have the money. If you have the money to hire 60 mandated reporters,
Yeah, they got that money in this town. The town can live with money, but it's held back for the right. I mean, and it is very, very prejudiced, this town. They don't like law. They don't like, you know, exploding vets. You know what I mean by that? Someone that don't have homes that aren't solid. Because we live in a motor home, so we're floaters. We can travel too easy.
you're not real veterans, then you're just hobos like the rest of us.
Well, I'll put it
You
this
might
way.
as well be black in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put it this way. We had a home for a while, and they tried to take it away from us every day we lived there. And one way or the other, I mean, they raided us so many times over stupid stuff that,
Lori's having that problem, and she's, you know, Lori. I mean, she talks 400 miles an hour, but she doesn't do any drugs. She's just been beaten a lot. But then they know that she's not able to defend herself against anything that they do to her. So housing does whatever the fuck they want to her.
and they can do that and get away with it. Well, the way that they was set up with that, the way Biden did that with the mandates on the rent and the, you know, from COVID, he raised it where the renters could stay there longer than the people that own the homes had to start paying the bank all of a sudden, but wasn't collecting anything. Right? I mean, so that it was a way to grab land. It was another land grab. The Clintons did it. I mean, all the way back to Reagan. Reagan was the only one that didn't do it, the land grab.
That's because he had a better way to do it. His system was to drop us off all mentally ill people on the streets, where they remain to this day. It makes them tens of thousands of dollars per homeless person every time they have to arrest one of us for being victimized. They just pretend that we're all mentally ill, and then they get to racket that money out of us.
But, you know, I tried for 6 months to get a card from them. I mean, I went to the insane asylum trying to get it just 6 years back overseas because I wanted my crazy card, because with the crazy card, they can't hold you liable for anything you do.
Well, they absolutely do, though. That's the thing that come out recently, is that the laws that are created to protect the victims are being used by government officials to further victimize us.
and make money off of it, or
Yep, I tried turning in Ray Rao for the things that he got busted for. They still won't listen to me.
yeah, they wouldn't listen to me. You know, when I said that the Yamhill County cops hated me because of what I did in Yamhill County, I embarrassed them, and twice. And they told me both times if I did it, that they were going to come after me, and there was a lot of them. And I said, well, then, you know, stop doing what you're doing, and I'll let it go. I'll go the other way. but if you don't stop doing what you're doing, I'm going to go after you because I might as well be doing it myself, letting you go. You know, if you see a crime like that and you walk away from it, it's just as bad as you doing it.
That's what I tell people about the crimes I go through. I tell them, hey, here's the thing is that I turn in rapists and child molesters. If somebody rapes a child in front of you, that's not your fault. But if you don't turn it in, every child he rapes after that is your fault.
Yeah. I used to say if I didn't kill that son of a bitch, it's my fault if he raped another one, right? And then I got older and it was harder to hide the body. and the police knew that I knew that. You know, they said, we know what the problem is. Having a harder time getting rid of the bodies. Forensic the way it was, yes, I am.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Well, I never was able to bring myself to pull a trigger on somebody.
Oh, I could if I saw him hurting a child in a heartbeat.
I've taken ass whoopings because people were hurting children. I've gone to jail because people were hurting children. I've even been to prison because people were hurting children. Like I said, that time I was locked up, I'm not convicted of any felonies. But every one of those situations, it was people hurting kids. Most of them have history of using children. You look at my record, you're going to notice that it's completely devoid of sex offenses because I'm not a sex offender. Never even been charged for one. It's also completely devoid of abuse against children because I don't fucking abuse kids.
I've been known to be the Pied Piper. I can take a crowd of kids and turn them all around and get them away from the system that they're in and head them a different direction, controlling them. And the law don't like it, the system don't like it, and it's wrong because if you treat them right and they know that kids know if you're going to hurt them or not, they know ahead of time.
If you empower them with a brain, we can't get them to fight wars.
Well, that's why they made America dumber. They started back in the 60s and turned it the other direction to make it dumber. And they took it away from our parents. Doing it to our kids, right?
You know, Trump wasn't dumb.
No, he's smart.
Neither was Clinton.
Politician.
They all play dumb because the American people won't listen to somebody who thinks they're smarter than everybody.
Well, he's got that attitude, but he's a lot smarter than everybody. But like I said, he's not a politician. He knew nothing about politics. He said things up there that, oh my God, you can't see that up there. But what did he do? He put blacks back on the board, got their families back together. I mean, and who separated them? But all the ones before, because it was money, and they could put them in prison and work them like slaves, and that's what they were doing. And Hillary, if she would have become president, we would have been in a living hell so bad that we'd all probably want to kill her.
God, Hillary's nuts. She bought a house in New York that she never moved into just so she could run for the state senate in New York.
She tried to take over 1,100 kids from one country, doing it in small groups, got caught, and she was killing them. After her, their what do they call that? There's something in the child that they were using for. I mean, it was like Epstein Island. God, that thing went on for how many years and nobody.
People stopped caring as soon as COVID hit.
That was another one of those.
I literally don't know anybody who died of COVID.
I know somebody that ended up in the hospital and had a hell of an operation because of COVID. I do know a few people that died, and I can't say it was from COVID. I got to say it was from the shot. They died within hours of getting the shot.
That's a possibility. I'm not against vaccines, but it depends on the vaccine.
Well, there was people that died from the vaccines that we got when we were younger.
Yep, the polio vaccine kills almost half of 1%, which means out of every 200 people that you vaccinate, one of them's going to die.
Right, and did a lot of bad things to kids when it first came out because they were overdosing them with it.
They're also putting a specific type of mercury in it that is supposed to make your body kick into overdrive as far as your antibodies and immune system goes. But they're saying now that that type of mercury, because it's in your body, is not only giving people autism, it's giving them brain damage, and it's reducing their lives down to mid-30s.
Well, they have to get rid of so many people a year because otherwise this planet would be overpopulated, right? I mean,
It's horribly mismanaged, is what it is.
right? They're getting rid of the wrong people. I mean, we can get rid of it. We used to get rid of the dumb ones all by themselves. The dumb ones would get rid of themselves.
The entire population of the world could live in just the land in Alaska and live comfortably, just not lavishly.
Right,
The
right.
reason that we're in the situation we're in now is because we got horrible mismanagement. How much does it cost to get a homeless person off the streets for an entire year?
How much does it cost, really?
It takes about $12,000 a year to have a homeless person in housing and pay their bills. About $12,000 plus an additional $6,000 for food and other expenses. So we're looking at $18,000. How much does it cost to lock up a homeless person for a year? Between $100,000 and $170,000.
I was going to say because a prisoner in OSB costs you just about $110,000 a year for that prisoner. And I don't-
81% of those incarcerated were homeless when arrested.
And I don't see how come they can spend so much on a prisoner and they can't spend it on an old folks and old folks home.
That's one of the big issues too. I fight for old folks, I fight for young folks, but I also fight for street folks because I'm one of the street folks. I also fight for white people and black people. I'm against racist movements like the KKK and BLM. They're both racist.
Well, if you talk to some people, they would tell you I'm racist, but I'm not as racist as they think. I mean, just because I don't believe that they should mingle or intertwine, right? I mean, and I don't because it doesn't work out very well. I mean, I mean, I don't have any problem with the Indian mixing with the Mexicans or Mexicans mixing up with the black ones with the white. They usually end up with a bad child. I mean, a child that's going to get sick and die. I mean, odds are. And it's not supposed to be that way. The Bible even talks about it, but if you don't believe in the Bible, don't worry about it.
Well, I've been learning about some of the dynamics of. All right, so there was a lady in Virginia. She died recently. She had something called sickle cell anemia.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You can't get it as a white person.
I thought it was for only black.
It's only black people. Yep. So this white girl in Virginia got sickle cell anemia and died. And the reason that she ended up dead was because her parents didn't want to tell her she was part black.
Well, I took care of children through the state and many a times through the parents. Right? I mean, I was a babysitter for a lot of people.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but we didn't have to drive like that.
Nope. And you saw the kids that had just pulled in, the Mexican kids, the way they looked at us at first, and they were laughing when they come back out. That's because they thought something different was going on here, like a drug deal.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Well, that's definitely true. I've had a lot of people that have harassed me for dealing drugs, like because I live in parking lots, you know. So when them drug addicts come up to me and ask me to use my lighter, yeah, I'm gonna let them use my lighter. It doesn't hurt anybody. But because I handed them something, it must be drugs.
Yeah, I had a police officer tell me the same thing from giving somebody money on the corner, that I was just promoting the drug scene, you know. And I said, I'm sorry, but I got something else, you know, I don't believe that with everybody. I can tell you the ones that do.
Oh, the two youngins that just got out of that vehicle.
I wonder if there's some blue wrap.
I'm not hateful at them. I just don't like being threatened or intimidated.
Yeah.
The one who was driving with the braces, he isn't too bad. He's just mouthy. The other one thought he was going to intimidate me and threaten me over that youngin, what was his name? Christian, the
Yeah.
black fella. The chubby fella that was with him was one of the ones that was trying to intimidate me that day. And then He might have been one of the passengers the other night when they were checking pumpkins at my vehicle over there at the Safeway. They had
Really,
to go.
two pumpkins that, yeah.
Yeah, they pegged my vehicle twice with pumpkins, missed with a third one. I didn't find it until the next day. We found two of them. Apparently, the youngins had bought four of them all together. But yeah, that's one of those situations where, like I said, I'm not out looking for trouble, but ain't nobody protecting me out here, and I can't protect myself. My best friend got herself into a lot of trouble because she was on drugs. And after a whole year of being victimized, I finally exposed her dad for being a child molester. She tried pretending that I stalked her, and then she got her brains blown out. Even worse than that, she asked the guy to blow her brains out. And you know what it was all over? Sibling rivalry. Natalie Bollinger and her twin sister were fighting over a boy. I don't even know who the hell the boy was. I don't care.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
I took care of a couple of girls that one hated the other one because dad wasn't molesting her. And at first it was like, what?
It does make sense, though.
Yeah, more attention, you mean? Yeah, it's just the wrong kind.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try.
it does make perfect sense. I mean, I got an older brother
Marlboro Black Hunter.
who didn't necessarily get the best in life, but I got a little brother who got anything that he wanted. My little brother is a pedophile. My older brother isn't.
Yeah, the barbecue.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. I don't think thumping on him for every little indiscretion is the right thing to do, but there comes a time when, yeah, you gotta let somebody know that violence is not the answer, and if they're gonna keep on jumping to violence is the answer, violence will come back on them.
Yeah, but didn't the Lord say vengeance isn't mine? No, I mean,
Actually, he said, "Vengeance is mine." Yep,
which depends on which Bible you're reading. Though.
that's true.
You see, I studied both of them, and the first one, he was a mean son of a bitch.
Oh, he is. God was a very mean SOB,
Not,
all the way until Jesus showed up.
yeah, well, in the second part of the Bible, though, he wasn't. He didn't hate people.
Well, that's Jesus that wasn't hating people. And that also comes down to the Jewish laws of the time. And if you understand what they were going through at the time, their laws make sense.
Yeah, but it was God that turned somebody colored on Noah's boat for laughing at Noah for being cold on the deck. He got drunk the night they floated, and it got raining, and his kids were laughing at him because he was shivering. And so they turned him colored. Didn't say what color, just color. And then two blacks got off that boat. Now, does that mean that he didn't like black regardless?
I think we're all colored.
Well, I'm just saying, believe in it, right? I used to tell the Catholic nuns that, and they get so mad at me. How can you pick it apart? How come you just looking to pick it apart? I'm not. I'm just looking at your stories. Your story's got wrong things in it. It's like the one brother that hated the other brother. I mean, yeah.
What's up?
I mean, if you listen to that story, the one with God on. I mean, what side?
I'm good,
He
buddy.
was on neither one of their side.
He still doesn't take sides.
Mm-mm.
Now, when people say taking the Lord's name in vain, I'll say, God damn it, every day. I don't mind. But that's not vanity. Vanity is, Lord, please make me prettier so I can get the man I want. Lord, let us win this football game. Please, in Jesus' name, get rid of that selfless bat.
Yeah. Make sure this bank robbery goes through.
You know?
All the bad reasons, right? For asking for help in all the wrong ways.
Tim Tebow, when he was out there going down on one knee every football game, all those people had a problem with Colin Kaepernick. You know, I like Colin Kaepernick. Not as a football player. I don't give two shits about football. What I care about is I thought he was taking a knee for the right reason. I grew up in the system. I know how black people are treated. And anybody who wants to tell me black people ain't treated that way didn't grow up with them.
Oh no, I experienced it even when I was in Louisiana going through boot camp. I didn't know. I thought we fought a war. separated this, that broke all that.
Yeah.
Then they still have white buses and black buses down on the weekend. What the hell's going on here?
I had more than one person come back from Vietnam. Of course, I wasn't alive during Vietnam. I had to meet these guys years after the fact, telling me I was racist until I went to Vietnam. And then you're sitting there, you never seen a black person in Wichita, Kansas. You never see a black person in such and such Nebraska or such and such Montana, you know. But then here we are, we're in the middle of the jungle and people are shooting at us. And the guy next to you is a black guy. You never seen one anywhere but boot camp.
Yeah, and there was a lot of them. They got the end of the bad deal.
Yeah. A lot of black people during Vietnam joined up without being drafted because they knew that they were going to be drafted anyway and figured they'd beat it
And
out.
was a better living than what they had.
It was. You could actually go into the God, what is it? The flight program for the helicopter training.
Well, if they could go fast through the boot camp in any of it and get a decent number in the boot camp, right, then they could go anywhere. But they had to get that boot camp thing done first.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't. I mean, a lot of people I knew that were said don't have them around because they'll give up and give up to the enemy before we will.
And they didn't.
And the enemy can smell them and they can't smell us. I mean, there's a lot of things, but I mean,
There's what they tell you, and then there's the experience of it. I know one guy came back from Vietnam, and he was very racist beforehand and after, and his entire hatred was just pointed at black people, and it was just because the black guy that he had on the Claymore went to sleep, ended up getting a few people hurt, but not killed. None of them ended up dead, but they could have. And for the rest of his life, he's going to hate every single black person because one black man fell asleep on shift. Now, of course, the Romans would have beaten him to death for that.
right.
You don't fall asleep on duty.
No, I mean, don't make noise. I mean, there's a lot of things you don't do, but
You don't put on cologne. You make sure that you eat the same food that your enemies are eating.
I had a drill sergeant in Louisiana, black, and his last name was Williamson, same as mine. And he kept telling me, don't think I'm your father. I never did.
I'd tell him you ain't ugly enough to be my daddy.
But they did use them against us in jump school. You either jump out of this plane or I'm fucking you before it hits the ground.
Yeah.
I'm jumping. Believe me, I'm jumping. I mean, I'll learn. I didn't want to, but I will.
That's another thing that I have to deal with personally, not out here so much, but in a lot of other places, is black people trying to intimidate me with their blackness. Like, that works on stupid people and ignorant Nebraskans, but I grew up in the system. It doesn't work on me.
The biggest state cop I ever met in my life was black. And he was huge. And he put his hand on my shoulder one night and said, I understand, son, what you said. Because I said, I got a gunshot victim in my back seat and I'm trying to get him to the hospital. What do you do with your gunshot victims? You know, I mean, the police, they leave them dying, but they do.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm trying to get him to a hospital. And I would do that for a black man.
Like that guy in Memphis that the police let him lay there writhing in pain for 11 hours. 11 hours. They let him stay there until he was dead.
How about the one that they shot 7 times in the back and said I'd have done it a little different if I knew it was on television?
Yeah.
For a $35 warrant. Shot him and killed him over a $35 warrant.
I got assaulted by Sheriff Scott DaCosta at Chapel, Nebraska for trying to turn in Sheriff Scott DaCosta at Chapel, Nebraska. They said they were sending a state policeman to come investigate and to take care of the situation. And next thing I know, Scott DaCosta's beating on the door saying, I have to come out.
I still come back to protected one. And I don't understand all of it myself. But when a police officer asked me, and it was a stater, said, how come you're protected? I said, what do you mean? And he said, see what it says about you when I bring you up on the screen? And I said, well, it might have something to do with what is that, a stalking order. I said, I got a guy that wants to marry me or something. I don't know what they called it, but he's got to be in love with me to get it. And told me if it gets within 1,000 feet of me, I can shoot him. I don't want to. I've told him 100 times. He wants me to, and I don't want to.
That's the thing about these youngins here. They're trying to get me to kill them, and they don't understand that's what they're pushing for. They could just easily leave me the fuck alone. It would be easy for them to leave me alone. It would be easy for them to understand that I don't carry a firearm for a reason. It would be easy for them to understand that I'm a human being that wasn't there for trouble. It would be easy for them to recognize that.
I was in Pacific City on a Friday night and had a crowd of them get a hold of me and handed my grandson off to the female I was with and said, hold him for a minute. And got hit in the back with a tire iron in the next move. And what I saw was that this guy bought these kids beer. And there was another exchange going on. And I said something to the guy that did that. And then the big kid stepped in front of me like he was going to. And so I tackled him and took a chunk out of his throat with my teeth. I bit him because it was the only thing I think I could do to scare the living daylights out of these punks, right? And a lot of them can hurt you.
I had a guy mount up on me once in an institution like that once. Literally, the only thing that I could do is reach forward and bite his testicle. I did.
Yeah,
I got a mouthful of his, sweats in the process, but I mean, the dude was on top of me, mounted up, pounding me in the face. He ended up breaking one of his knuckles on my forehead while I was biting his ball. But I literally did that. I ain't going to be ashamed to say, yeah, I bit the man in the testicle. I had a blanket over me, and this is something that a lot of homeless women are afraid of. They won't zip up their sleeping bag because if a man mounts up on them, she can't do nothing. She's trapped. And for a lot of the guys out here, they don't understand it unless they've been targeted. You get targeted by a gang or something like that. Now, one of the things in Colorado, Boulder is a very white town, except for when school's in session.
It's a rich white town.
It's a rich white town, that's right. When school's in session, they have a lot of black students there. But when there's no school in session, there's no black students. So Boulder, Colorado has less than 2% black population, except when college is in session. Then they're at 4.5% to 5%. It increases that much. Now, one day there were some black kids that thought they were going to go bum bashing, which everybody knows what bum bashing is. You can beat up a hobo, nobody's going to care. So their third hobo that they tried to beat up while I was sleeping under my grate was a guy that I knew, and he was on a bike and they couldn't catch him. But they kept on screaming, they were out to hurt a hobo. So when they couldn't catch this guy on the bike, I waited for what seemed like half an hour before getting out. I didn't want to tangle with them. Well, I got out at the wrong time because right as they were walking by. So the little one's got the big mouth, and then there's a big one behind them who's doing the whole intimidating thing, and they're looking for somebody to beat up. And of course, me being a mouthy little fucker, I stepped up and I said, I'm about to intimidate you with my blackness. So they took me to Illegal Pete's and bought me a burrito. Is that what should have happened there? No, what should have happened is they should have beat my ass.
Yeah, I was at the Greyhound station in Portland and hungry, and they said, only place to eat that Taco Bell on the other side of Burnside Bridge. And you ain't got the color to walk across it. And I said, I'm so hungry right now. I've been 7 days without food. I'll eat them on the way over there.
Yeah.
And I had a white female with me and told her, you just stay right beside me. Don't say a word. I don't care what they say. Don't say a word. Just stay beside me and let me do the talking. And one guy come out of all of it and said, you either are a badass motherfucker, you got a gun on you, or you got a hell of a lot of bikers behind you. We're walking across this bridge this time, and I said, I'm hungry. And it's the only place to eat that Taco Bell. I was on Greyhound for 19 days. 7 of them I hadn't had anything to eat.
You broke.
All my money was in McMinnville in my bag. The bus had broke down in my bag, but it beat me to McMinnville, and that's where all my money was. Yeah, I didn't have a dime on me. I had to teach 2 kids how to play cards so that I could eat them out of a sandwich. And their mom said, you just teach my kids how to play poker? Yes, I did, ma'am. I'm hungry.
Growing up in the system, I was never afraid of any of the black kids. I was afraid of them individually, the ones that were assholes. But I've never been afraid of black people like I was first time I went to Omaha, Nebraska, walked into a convenience store, and everybody, literally everybody in there was black. Everybody stopped all at once to stare at me. Did I buy anything? No, I turned around and I fucking left.
Now you know what they feel like in a white area, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in the system. I know what it's like getting my ass beat for being
I
white.
was in segregation in Portland when segregation started. They shipped 3 of us to a black school and 3 whites to a black school and 2 blacks to a white school. You know what I mean? It was like we crossed the line at Kellingsworth in Portland. 3 of us had to go over to that side and 3 of them had to come over to this side. And I learned my lesson. I mean, as there's 4 of them, they're not your friend. If there's 3 of them, they could be your friends. But about the 4th one steps in, it's all over different. And
You
we're
can
not
have a
that way.
conversation one-on-one, but the moment you get somebody with an attitude there, they're not going to let you speak or have a one-on-one conversation.
I had one girl that gave me her wooden leg because I was beating her brother and she wanted me to beat him worse. So apparently he wasn't a good guy anyway.
I've had 4 people in this town offer me firearms to go kill people. I've had 4 people offer me guns just because I need protected. And I've had at least twice that many offer me guns just to offer me a gun.
But guns will get you in trouble just as well as they'll get you
Exactly.
out.
And that's something that I say on my channel almost every day. I don't own a gun for a reason to get me shot.
Yeah, I didn't pack a gun because I didn't want the trail of bodies behind me when I was younger.
You
You
know?
know, I didn't. And I've taught people how to use them and then gave them one and said, now we're equal, you know, and watch them run.
And that is what makes them equal. See,
Right.
Samuel Colt made it so that a 90-pound woman didn't have to get raped by a 300-pound man.
Yep.
But that was Samuel Colt who did that.
Yeah.
That wasn't Uncle Sam.
No, and Winchester did the same thing. Winchester
Yeah.
made it so, but it was Colt that was the one that made it so that it was an equalizer.
And then Remington come out and made the 700. And after that, anybody with a good eye could do whatever they wanted.
Right. And
Well,
it was us,
710 if you're in the military.
it was us though that got blamed for giving the Indians blankets for poison and alcohol, trading guns and alcohol. And it wasn't us. It was the worst of us that were doing it.
Very true. Kind of like in the South. Less than 1% of all people in the South owned a slave. Less than 1%. Now, there were also literally hundreds of black people in the South who owned slaves.
Excuse me, but it was the blacks that sold us the slaves.
Well, I got a question.
The
If
original-
somebody's selling a child, who's the bad guy? The one who sells the child or the one who buys the child?
Well, it depends on if the guy buys the child and does the right thing next, or if he does the wrong thing.
Chances are pretty good he's going to pull an Epstein, though.
Right. Yeah, that's a bad scene.
And that's the thing with whether it's black people selling other black people or not. The fact is that as a human being, those people should have looked at it differently. I mean, I could go ahead and say that, you know, if a woman gets raped, it's her fault for being there, the same way that men get treated, because that is how men are treated. When we're abused, it's our fault for being there. You shouldn't have been at that party. You shouldn't have been
Right,
with
you
those
made
people.
a bad situation. You got into the bad
You
situation.
chose it because you're a male.
Right.
If you and I go to a party, right? It's different than if 2 women go to a party. If 2 guys go to a party and get into trouble, it's their fault for going to the party. They should have known better. But a woman is not expected to know better. Now, for a lot of women, they're hit a really shitty situation because from day one, men are taught that we're supposed to protect women and children. And from day one, women are taught how to manipulate that. And it's not until they hit the wall at 30 to 35 years of age that they start actually hitting the actual workforce like men have had to do since 18. Most of the women that I know at Safeway, they're real nice ladies. But a lot of them, I can tell they were very pretty in their youth. Now they're in a situation where they have to work for a living, and it's a completely different situation from what they were expecting at 18.
Right.
But they've hit the wall. So the stuff that I would normally expect from somebody 18 to 35 years old, out of the women who work at the Safeway, I don't get that treatment. They treat me more humanely. But that's because they're older. They've
Yeah,
been through
and
the
most,
experience.
and most of those females are living alone right now.
Yep.
Seriously. I mean, we know a few of them because they live in the same trailer park we do. And we understand, you know, I mean, they read the books in the night, whatever. They're alone. No, they're not with anybody. and some of the nicest people you've ever met. I mean, that lady that came up and gave me that bread that day, right on. Because I got a couple that live right next door to us, and she said already that she'll do anything on this earth to get rid of me. And I said, ma'am, I don't know what I ever did to you to make it so bad, other than I got long hair, I guess. And I'm sorry, you know, I am.
You look like a biker.
Huh?
You look like a biker.
Well, I tried, yeah, I've been told. I had a police officer go, and I was truck turned 70. You know, and I was coming by the Sand Lake exit there, but headed towards Pleasant Valley. And he said, so what's the reason for speeding today? And I said, there is no reason. I didn't say I wasn't. I didn't say I was, but there is no reason, right? There's never a reason to be speeding, and I never do this. I was the head car, and there was a whole bunch behind me, and he went around all of those others that were doing 70 to get me. And I thought, well, I've got the shittiest looking vehicle, so you know I don't have money. All them other ones had money. They're brand new vehicles.
And that is why they target us. One of the biggest things is that poor people in America are cowards. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to stick up for the next guy.
Yep.
The cops are all on the same side. If you are assaulted by a police officer in Boulder, Colorado, and you tell on that police officer, even if he gets busted assaulting 7 more people like Waylon Lolatai did, everywhere that you go, whether it be, I was in Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia. I was in.
You got a mark on you.
I do have a mark on me. You don't tell on bad cops. But the thing is that if they look at the situation with Waylon Lolatai, they'll realize that he's not allowed to be a cop anymore. He just couldn't stop beating on hobos. But out of the 7 people that he assaulted after me, the only 2 that anybody gave a shit about are 2 black men. And it's not because they were black, it was because they were in houses. Because there was a 3rd black man who was beaten up, but he was homeless and nobody gave 2 shits about him. There's also another black man, a guy named Mark Townsend, who helped me to carry some of my stuff after Natalie got killed. Well, police got a hold of him in Longmont, claimed that they thought he was his brother. I know Clyde. Clyde is about 6'2". Clyde doesn't look a thing like Brian at all. Brian is like 5'6", if that. They smacked him in the head with a flashlight, and now he's got memory issues.
Yeah, I can remember in Louisiana, whenever the fight would break out in the barracks, the MPs would get the blacks first.
Yep.
And there was no black MPs. And I never understood that because they have to know where the fight started. I mean, somebody had to tell them, right? But it wasn't that way. They got the bad end of the deal constantly.
There's only 2 types of people in the prisons that are going to get beaten down by the guards. And it's not child molesters.
Oh,
They'll beat you down. They'll beat you down if you're black, or they'll beat you down if you're a mental health hold. If they can call you mental, they can do whatever they want to you.
And get away with it.
Yep.
Yeah, here in Oregon, and the one in Salem, there was a lady that had 11 kids, and she buried every one of them and had them and raised them right there in the state asylum. Not a one of them knew the other one. Because, I mean, they were gone before they ever met the other one. And, I mean, and that's just unbelievable. I met some of the kids and went, wow. And they were off the wall. I mean, so how does this happen? Orderlies and people.
When I was sexually assaulted in the prison, the lady that I had to turn it into was the assistant warden named Sarah Nelson. You know what she went to prison for? Sexual assault against an inmate. That'd be like when you get raped, having to go to Epstein to turn in the rape. It just don't work. That'd be like as a Jew being victimized by the Gestapo and Heinrich Himmler being sent to Adolf Hitler. Hey, well, if they're messing with you Jews, why don't you just go talk to Hitler? That's gonna work.
Right. Yeah, my dad told me that very young. You be careful about what you see and where you go to tell on what you see, because 98% of the time the police are involved in it, and they're not going to help you.
The human trafficking here is coming from the police, and the majority of the drugs are coming from the police.
I believe that 100%. I do. And the reason I believe it is because I've seen it in the past at other places. And many years ago, we came down to Tillamook and played a game on them. And I watched what went down, and it was unbelievable. They thought that I was bringing in a hell of a lot of drugs down here. And they surrounded me and everything, and all I had was donuts. you know, whoever told you that, you guys, what was going on? They played a game on you.
I've got over a dozen homeless folks and some poor folks as well. Speaking about the drugs, who it's coming from, which officers in specific, and what it's being traded for. There's also the human trafficking here, and it goes as far as Grants Pass. That's the major hub right now because the Norteños are running it. But Norteños don't even work in that area. Norteños is way south. So, I mean, what's going on there? Obviously, they're being able to traffic. Obviously, there's no resistance there. There's a woman named Misty Potter. She used to be a friend of mine. Her kids were actually taken in Grants Pass. She's also familiar with Tillamook because they gave her a whole raft of shit. There's also a lady named Claire. They stole her kids, sent them with a man who's not their father to Florida. Claire had to try to, now this is going to sound real fucked up, and it is. She took complete advantage of me because she was trying to get to her kids. She made empty promises because she was trying to get to her kids. And now, of course, I'm hurting a lot because she didn't keep her word. I am really mad about the fact that she took complete and total advantage of me and that she didn't plan on helping me. She was just going to take the money and run. But at the same time, I mean, they took her kids.
Yep. Well, I've helped people hide kids in them, from a bad situation. I ran into a police officer that was no longer a police officer from Tillamook and Ebo 3 years ago, and he got in my face hard. And when I found out who he was, I had to let him know, you're the dumb idiot that had sex with somebody on the road. Instead of, you wrote him a ticket and told him that they could get out of the ticket by having sex with you. They gave you a blowjob and you put it on Facebook. She was a movie star and gave you a blowjob. And you put it on Facebook, you moron.
You know how long that teacher got who molested children here?
Was it a guy?
It was a female. She got 6 hours.
Well, I was going to say, well, how about the one that got to marry the kid? The 14-year-old, she went to prison over it, and then while she was in prison, had a baby from him, and he was still 16. He was 14 when she first went in. He was 16 when she had the second child. Now, how did he give visitor rights in prison to visit her, to have her get pregnant, conjugal visits? I don't understand that. He's only 16. And I know love has no numbers in it, supposedly, but there's supposed to be something in the older one of the two. It says that it's too young, that they're not grown enough, right? I mean,
I've read the Bible, and I know a lot of people want to argue about what's in there. It makes sense. I mean, a lot of it is subject to gross reinterpretation. But the thing is that it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that it's okay to fuck kids.
oh, I was a foster parent, and I had a lot of young females have a crush on me, and they wished that I was there.
Once they turn 18 and realize that they have to take care of themselves or they have to find someone else to take care of them, that all goes out the window. They no longer want a nice guy. But until then, they like you because you're nice.
CSD got mad at me because I had an account for all these kids, right? I put money in their accounts every month, and I got it from CSD. Half of it went into this account because when they turn 18, they're going to need it.
Yeah.
They can't hit the streets broke because then they'll be in prison.
Yeah, the first thing they'll do is when they turn 18, the first ticket that most homeless people have is for urban camping. The majority of us, we never got into trouble with the law until we got busted sleeping.
Yeah, we got in trouble because we had 45 people camping on our property. And they wanted us to get a permit to let them camp on our property. I said, you said that we can't have them that many. So what you want me to do is go in and file for a permit so you can say that we're agreeing that we have 45 people living on our property and you can give us a ticket. I'm not stupid. I know how to play the game.
And it's unfortunate that it is a game because it gets people killed.
We're doing this, what do they call it, recycling and picking up garbage at the front door of gated communities, right? And when Trump was president, he put a lot of homeless people in these gated communities by telling the people that own the apartments, we'll knock off your taxes if you put homeless people in your apartments. For how many you put in is how much we'll knock off your taxes. And a lot of these places were putting 15 and 20 people because they don't want to pay no taxes. And it was better for them to do that than pay taxes because then they can get away with charging them under the table kind of thing, right? I mean, because I know that's what's going on, a lot of it. I mean, it's just like right now, I'm supposed to be getting a free phone and free internet, right? I got a free phone. I don't got free internet. Well, I'm sure I'm getting free internet, but I don't get it.
One of the ladies here in Tillamook was complaining to me that she has to live like a Mexican. And she invited me to her house. This is one of the few people who's invited me to their house here. So I went to her house. She's got like 7 homeless people living in her house. They're all homeless, including herself. They're staying there because the state's getting a special subsidy because all of these people are staying in that house. But when I walked in, what I noticed is that it's not 8 people living in a house that are living like Mexicans. No, Mexicans work together. Mexicans work as a family unit. These people are at each other's throats. They live in a fucking pigsty, and there was literally shit in the middle, human shit in the middle of the floor.
Oh, no, they don't live that way. No, the Mexican, I'm telling you now, they got a goal and they're after that thing. And they'll all work.
They'll work together.
All for that same goal. They'll get it. And then they'll make another goal.
Yep.
And before long, all of them have something very nice.
And that's how it's supposed to work. That's family organization. Yep. There's a guy named Martin. Up here with his entire family. He came up here with his entire family from Mexico. And the first thing they did was they all worked together and they got grandpa a pickup truck, an old beater for next to nothing. And they drove that old beater and did lawn service. Well, once they got enough money, they were able to buy grandma an old station wagon. So they started with the oldest and then worked their way down. So then grandma had the station wagon and they started a cleaning business. So then the men had the yard work and the women had the cleaning business. Then they were all earning money, and successively, the younger they are, the nicer a vehicle they got because they were all working together. Sure.